Hey everybody, so I would just like to do one more example with you with solving the system of linear equations graphically, which remember just means solve each equation for y and get it into the form y equals mx plus b. Remember, m is your slope, b is your y-intercept, which is also your starting point. All right, and then we'll graph them and see where the point is that they cross. All right, so neither of these are solved for y. So what I'm going to do is circle the term that has a y. Then I could say, all right, 4x is positive. I'm going to subtract it from both sides. So I'm left with negative 2y equals negative 4x and then plus 10. Right? You can't combine those. That's not 6x. One of them is your slope. One of them is your y-intercept. Now we've got to divide everything by negative 2, So we're left with y equals positive 2x minus 5. And we're ready to graph, right? 2 is your slope. We'll use m just like we do in the equation. And b is your y-intercept, negative 5, which is where we start. So we start down here at negative 5, and our slope's positive 2 over 1. So that means we're going to go up 2 and then to the right 1. Up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. And you just keep adding a point there. The slope is like steps. The bigger the number, the more steep it is. I'm just going to go back this way too. Now remember, you always have your graphing calculator as well. So either way, you got to solve for y. Just type in 2x minus 5. That's our equation right here. Look at the graph. Make sure yours is doing that. Looks pretty good. Go to the table by hitting the second graph. Plot some of those points. Right? 2, negative 1. 3, 1. 4, 3. They're all right there. Okay. So now we'll just go over here, grab to the shapes, grab the insert line. I'm going to change it to the same color so they're easier to see. And then click on one of the dots at the end, and then you can just click and drag. All right, I'm going to go back to my drawing, put my arrows, and then I'm going to write the equation off to the side because we don't know where the other one's going to be. All right. Oops, that was not a good line. All right, on the other side, there's not much to solve, but y is not by itself. I got to get that plus 2x to the other side, so I'm going to subtract it, and I'm left with y equals, we'll put the negative 2x first, then the minus 1. Remember, your slope is negative 2 over 1, and your y-intercept is negative 1, which is where we'll start. And since your slope's negative 2 over 1, we're going to go down 2 over 1. So down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. By the way, if these both were 2 or both negative 2 for the slope, they would be parallel and there wouldn't be a solution. All right, I'm going to go grab my shape, my line, change it to the same color, click and drag it out through my points and then let go. And put my arrows and my equation so we know which line is which. All right, and then remember your solution is the point where they cross. And it would be the point 1, negative 3, it looks like. Now, like I said, I like to double check in my calculator. We already have this equation in. Let's put the other equation in to y2, negative 2x minus 1. Let's take a look at that graph. Yeah, that looks pretty spot on. Now, I forgot to mention this in the last video, but we can check to see if that's our point of intersection. See how they both have a negative 3? Good to go. 1, negative 3 is our intersection point. Another thing you can do is, if you notice, these are all the graphing buttons. If you go to calculations right up here, to get to it, we'll have to hit second. So second, calc. Go down to intersect and hit 5. All right, if you just hit enter 3 times, it'll tell you the intersection point, 1, -3. So a nice little trick to use if you're trying to find the intersection point. Maybe it's a decimal and you can't see it in the table. So again, we did second and then the trace button, which is calc, and choose intersect. All right, so your homework is on the next 2 pages. This one is just checking like we did on the first example yesterday or in the last video. So we're going to plug, whenever we see an x, we'll plug in a -3. Wherever we'll see a y, we'll plug in a 1 into both equations and see if it checks. If it checks in both, it's the solution. If it doesn't, it's not. So again, if we go, stop it. If I go back to yesterday's video, it's this check part. So I'm checking the original equations to see if our answer is really the solution. Well, here you didn't have to go through the graphing. It gave you what they think is a solution you're going to check. All right, these two, you want to solve for y. Remember, get it into y = mx + b form. Solve and graph each one and find the point of intersection. You can use your calculator or slope y-intercept. On the back page, same thing. This one's solved for y, this one isn't. So if it helps, circle the 5y. Start from there. All right, and then down here, these are all solved already for you. So you can either use slope y-intercept or type it into your graphing calculator. But definitely give those a try. Even that first one, if you're like, y = -1, that doesn't make sense. Go to y equals. Type in -1. Look at the graph. There it is. All right. This one, again, you could type it into your calculator or go and use your slope y-intercept. 4. Down 5 over 2. Down 5 over 2 would be somewhere over here. You can already see where that intersection point is. All right, so your answer is just to -1. All right, that's all you're doing for each one. Just make sure you're drawing the graph. Use this tool over here. It's a lot easier than trying to freehand, as you can see. All right, if you have questions, stop by the Math Lab. Have a great day.